Tonight, the president does an about-face. He'll fight the release of more photographs that allegedly show U.S. troops abusing prisoners. Those photos, he says, could put American soldiers in danger. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, the catch of the day. The shuttle Atlantis grabs the Hubble Space Telescope to give it a complete overhaul. Are you at risk of dementia? A new test may be able to tell you. And they may love their parents, but they don't want them as friends, not Facebook friends.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
And good evening, everyone. When he took office, President Obama promised transparency, and as part of that, he said he would comply with a court order to release photographs that allegedly show U.S. troops abusing prisoners. But today, 3 weeks later, he's changed his mind. Under pressure from military leaders, he said he'll fight to keep those photographs classified. Here's our senior White House correspondent, Bill Plant.
After agreeing to release 44 photos of prisoner abuse in Iraq and Afghanistan, President Obama reversed himself today, saying their publication could endanger American troops.
The most direct consequence of releasing them, I believe, would be to further inflame anti-American opinion and to put our troops in greater danger.
5 years ago, these photos of prisoner mistreatment at Abu Ghraib prison ignited a firestorm of outrage. There may be thousands more images covered by the court order in a Freedom of Information case brought by the American Civil Liberties Union against the Bush administration.
These photos that were requested in this case are not particularly sensational, especially when compared to the painful images that we remember from Abu Ghraib.
But top military commanders, including General Raymond Odierno, commander of U.S. forces in Iraq, argued passionately that with additional troops moving into Afghanistan, this was the worst possible time to release the pictures.
Our commanders, both General McKiernan and General Odierno, have expressed very serious reservations about this, and their very great worry that release of these photographs will cost American lives. That was all it took for me.
The ACLU, which sued for release of the pictures, said the president's decision flies in the face of his promise of transparent government.
So if you accept the administration's logic, you'd really have to give the government wholesale censorship power. And that's not something that we can accept, and it's not something that the courts have accepted.
Candidate Obama pushed for full disclosure. President Obama has decided that there are times when transparency is a tough call. This case now goes back to the courts, perhaps to the Supreme Court. Katie?
Bill Plant reporting from the White House tonight. Thank you. The harsh interrogation of terror suspects was the focus of a congressional hearing today. A former FBI agent who interrogated the first major al-Qaeda prisoner said those methods simply don't work. Here's Bob Orr.
The debate over the treatment of detainees began just 6 months after 9/11, with the capture of al-Qaeda operative Abu Zubaydah. With Americans fearing another attack, then FBI interrogator Ali Soufan pressed Zubaydah for answers.
We obtained a treasure trove of highly significant actionable intelligence that proved instrumental in the war efforts against al-Qaeda.
Testifying today behind a screen to protect his identity, Soufan told Congress he did not use harsh interrogation methods, but rather worked to gain Zubaydah's trust, and quickly learned the identity of 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
If done correctly, this approach works quickly and effectively because it outsmarts the detainee using a method that he is not trained nor able to resist.
But the Bush administration, believing Zubaydah was holding back, ordered CIA interrogators to turn up the pressure. Over the next 18 months, Zubaydah was waterboarded 83 times and Mohammed 183 times at secret overseas prisons. Scores of other terror suspects, including many at Guantanamo Bay, were subjected to harsh interrogation methods, blessed by a series of Justice Department opinions, now rejected as torture memos. The rough interrogations were scaled back in 2006, but former Vice President Dick Cheney insists they stopped attacks.
I'm convinced, absolutely convinced, that we save thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of lives.
But some Democrats believe the interrogation policies were illegal, and now they want someone to be held accountable. Katie?
Bob Orr, thanks very much. Up in space, the Atlantis astronauts made a spectacular catch today, grabbing the Hubble telescope. Now they'll get to work overhauling it so it can continue taking pictures of far-off galaxies. Here's our science and technology correspondent, Daniel Seberg.
Lennis Houston, your go for grapple.
A delicate dance in space, all while traveling 5 miles or 85 football fields every second.
Lennis for Ottawa Dershall, fly around alignment.
Today, Shuttle Commander Scott Altman fired thrusters on board Shuttle Atlantis to gently approach the bus-sized Hubble telescope. A crewmate used a steady hand for the final few yards.
They're using a radar gun to actually measure the distance and the speed between the shuttle and the telescope. It's a remarkable procedure. They make it look easy, but it's quite complicated.
Once in position, rookie astronaut Megan MacArthur used the shuttle's robotic arm to hook onto Hubble.
Hubble has arrived on board Atlantis with the arm.
Astronaut John Grunsfeld, on his 3rd mission to Hubble, was thrilled about his reunion.
Amazingly, the exterior of Hubble, an old man of 19 years in space, still looks in fantastic shape.
This jam-packed mission involves 5 complex spacewalks starting Thursday morning. Tomorrow's task is to install a new camera about the size of a grand piano, 30 times more powerful than the old one, so strong that scientists should be able to look back more than 13 billion years ago to when galaxies were just starting to form.
With the new camera on the telescope, they're hoping to push back the frontier to within a few 100 million years of the Big Bang that started it all, to find out exactly how those galaxies started.
It's wonderful to see Hubble safely aboard Atlantis.
So this mission to extend Hubble's life by at least 5 years could help extend our own view, almost to the beginning of time. Daniel Seberg, CBS News, New York.
Turning now to the investigation into February's commuter plane crash near Buffalo. As federal hearings continued today, Colgan Air officials said the pilot, Marvin Renslau, falsified his job application, never disclosing that he had failed 2 flight tests before being hired. And an NTSB official said the flight crew's low pay, long commutes to work, and lack of sleep were a recipe for an accident. In other news tonight, the number of unwed mothers in America is soaring. The CDC reported today that unmarried women gave birth to more than 1.7 million babies in 2007. That's an increase of 26% in just 5 years, and it represents nearly 4 out of every 10 babies born here in the United States. To medical news now, and a new test for dementia. More than 5 million Americans are now living with the most common form of it, Alzheimer's disease. Dr. John LaPook reports on the new test that measures your risk for getting dementia.
Come on, I got you.
He powerlifts. He teaches ballroom dancing. But 80-year-old David Ginenthal is also losing his memory.
I don't remember dates. I have to write things down.
Ginenthal is in the first stages of Alzheimer's disease, but is doing everything he can to build his body to protect his brain.
I don't want to give up my dancing.
Today, researchers report that a new test identifies with 88% accuracy those patients 65 and over who are likely to develop dementia.
This is the very first tool that is trying to put together all of the different known risk factors and try to come up with one single score.
Over 3,000 elderly patients were screened for risk factors. The major ones: older age, poor performance on cognitive tests, and, surprisingly, being underweight. Other warning signs were an abnormal brain scan, a thickened carotid artery, and genes linked to Alzheimer's disease. Over half of patients with the highest risk scores develop dementia within 6 years.
I think some people are concerned, and this is a way that they could go in and either potentially be reassured, or if they are high risk, then they could possibly start planning for the future.
With studies suggesting that exercise and healthy lifestyle can slow progression of dementia, Ginenthal is determined to stay active. Researchers hope this new test will enable others to get ahead of the disease.
It doesn't mean you lay down and you cry. You go on with your life and you do the best you can.
The next step is to simplify the test for use in a family doctor's office to help answer that terrifying question, will I get dementia? It could put you on notice to get early treatment and change your lifestyle, Katie.
All right, John LaPook. John, thank you. Now turning to the Middle East, where Pope Benedict spent the day in Bethlehem, the birthplace of Jesus. As Richard Roth reports, the Pope brought a message for 2 old enemies.
Crossing through the concrete barrier that separates Israel from the Palestinian West Bank, the Pope called on both sides to bridge conflicts that divide them.
Will soon be lifted.
Celebrating Mass in Manger Square, he sympathized with the suffering in Gaza, but urged young Palestinians to resist the temptation of violence or terrorism. He endorsed Palestinian statehood, but also acknowledged Israel's need for security. In the words, there was some symmetry, an embrace of Palestinian hope, an acknowledgement of Israeli concern. In a setting like this, though, balance was hard to come by. The barrier around Bethlehem that Israel says has stopped suicide bombers and saved lives, Palestinians say makes their home a prison. The Pope said it was tragic to see it. A symbol of security on one side and oppression on the other. Benedict called the wall a stark reminder of the stalemate between Israel and the Palestinians. Richard Roth, CBS News, Bethlehem.
Turning to the economy now, some clouds moved in today to cover up the recent glimmers of hope, and that tops our CBS MoneyWatch.com notebook. The government reported today that retail sales are down for the second straight month, and 342,000 homeowners got a foreclosure notice in April, up 32% from a year earlier. That negative news helped send stock prices lower. The Dow lost 184 points. The CEO of AIG says he has a plan for paying back the $180 billion bailout, but won't tell Congress what it is. Members made it clear they don't like secrets.
Are you trying to hide something?
A new sign of General Motors' decline. Its stock closed today at $1.21, putting GM's market value now at less than $739 million. By comparison, Toyota is worth $115 billion. And coming up next, right here on the CBS Evening News, how a drop in boat sales leads to a drop in wine sales. We'll connect the dots of the recession in a moment. It would be hard to find anyone in this country who hasn't been affected by this recession. Our economy is so interconnected. In our series Financial Family Tree, we've shown you how falling demand for boats affects not only the Florida dealer who sells them, but the boat builder, the parts supplier, and the parts maker. And it doesn't end there. Cynthia Bowers picks up the story with a manufacturer on the shores of Lake Michigan.
With marine industry sales drying up, it isn't just the boat owner in Tampa and the boat builder and cushion makers in Homosassa that are running aground. The business supplying the fiberglass found on the boat hulls, Chicago-based Composites One, is also being left high and dry.
I think it's a scary time for a lot of people. It's very challenging without question.
For the first time in the company's 70-year history, it has been forced to lay off employees, 100 over the last 6 months. It's not just about slumping boat sales. Manufacturers of RVs, big rigs, and automobiles are all buying less fiberglass these days.
Is that part of the project?
The suburban Chicago headquarters expects to see its 2009 sales total at least $150 million less than last year. Which means beleaguered salesmen like Rick Hess of Burlington, Wisconsin, are spending their days dialing for dollars and coming up empty.
Check on Wasaki and what their order is for this week.
Hess works on commission. He and wife Jerry wonder how they can hang on to the life they've built with Rick earning 40% less than he did last year. They won't tell us how much that is, but imagine suddenly losing 40 cents on every dollar of pay.
How in the heck do you deal with that?
It's tough. Every day you just try to look for new opportunities in sales and try to grow your sales the best you can. A lot of arguing at home at night, and doesn't make it easy.
Now we really have to sit down and discuss it. I don't just go and buy something like I used to.
And when the Hesses scale back, other businesses get scaled back too. This summer, they will learn to maintain their own pool, and they've had to drop their longtime landscaper, Steve Peters.
Everybody got spoiled. I was so busy.
Not anymore. Peters has seen sales of $1.8 million in a good year drop to less than $1 million now, which means he's making commission on $800,000 fewer dollars.
My wife always yells at me every spring, don't worry, the calls will come in, but this year they're not coming in like they used to.
So his family's not going out like they used to.
They're cutting back on going out to dinner and stuff like that.
And when the Peters family doesn't eat out, that cuts into profits at his family's favorite restaurant, Twin Oaks Country Inn in nearby Wilmot, Wisconsin.
Slowly we've gotten squeezed out of what is available and the discretionary spending.
Restaurateurs Richard and Gina Knox know they fall near the bottom of that discretionary income waterfall. They used to serve 160 folks on a busy night, but now they're lucky if they get 100, even on the weekend. They say this is the scariest time in their restaurant's 18 years. They've resorted to offering coupons and even Friday fish fries in an attempt to entice new customers. Still, the dining room is largely empty.
People are drinking less, they're eating less, they're ordering less, they're going out less, everyone has less.
Richard still uses fresh basil, but is cutting back on other fresh herbs. He's not ordering as many steaks and not nearly as much wine.
Instead of a case, 2 cases, 3 cases of something, it's a bottle or 2 bottles.
Leaving a lot of empty space on his wine cellar shelves. And fewer bottles of wine sold means California winery profits, too, are dying on the vine. Cynthia Bowers, CBS News, Burlington, Wisconsin.
And we pick up the story next week as those slow boat sales in Florida ripple all the way to those winemakers of California as we continue on the financial family tree. And we'll be right back. Did you know private companies hold the patent rights to some of the genes in your body? The companies claim that helps them develop new treatments for serious diseases. But a group of cancer patients and the ACLU are suing, claiming those patents put them in danger. Here's Wyatt Andrews.
After facing and then surviving breast cancer, Janae Girard simply had to know more.
I found out my risk through BRCA analysis.
A widely available genetic test found that she carried the gene BRCA2, which also put her at higher risk for ovarian cancer. When she tried to look for an alternate test to get a second opinion, she learned no other tests are even permitted.
You cannot get a second opinion on the BRCA testing because there's only one company that does it. That's the problem.
That one company, Myriad Genetics of Utah, not only owns the test, it was able to patent the genes BRCA1 and BRCA2, the genes most often linked to breast and ovarian cancer.
Common sense should tell everybody that it's wrong to allow a private company to own a body part.
In what could be a landmark lawsuit, the ACLU is challenging the private ownership of body parts. Today, an estimated 20% of all human genes have been patented, including some linked to Alzheimer's and cystic fibrosis, and the lawsuit argues that private ownership is restricting, not helping, the invention of new therapies.
The effect of this gene patent has been to stifle medical treatment and medical research.
In a statement to CBS News, Myriad argues the patent system protects a large number of life-saving pharmaceutical and diagnostic products.
The courts and Congress are usually inclined to protect genuine inventions, but in this case, genes occur naturally in the body. And if you can't patent natural substances like water, the argument goes, how do you patent DNA? Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Washington.
And coming up next, the last face kids want to see on Facebook, their parents. Changes are coming to the Craigslist website. The erotic services section is being dropped. Critics called it a front for prostitution, and a new category, adult services, is being added. Craigslist says it will be charged for accessing that section and monitor every posting. The company's been under pressure to clean up the site since police linked it to the murder of a masseuse. And we end tonight at a very different website, Facebook. Once the exclusive domain of young people, their parents are invading their space. And how happy are the kids about that? Here's Sandra Hughes.
For longtime users of the website Facebook, getting an online request from someone to be your friend occurs almost daily.
She didn't tell me. She just added me.
Janelle Harden, a senior at Azusa Pacific University, got a Facebook friend request from someone who made her a little uneasy, even though she's known the person all her life.
So it was really weird when my mom got on it because I didn't know she'd know how to do it.
Janelle decided to accept her mom, but not everyone is so gracious. Online groups like Keep Parents Off Facebook and Eek, My Mom is on Facebook, are places for young adults to vent about the parental invasion. Some young people say having parents on their Facebook page is like giving them the key to their online diary.
Don't tag that because my mom may see.
Once you accept a friend invitation, that person can see everything you're up to, unless you set privacy limits. Pictures of parties and gossip are the biggest concern. What was created as a college social networking site has now become home to 200 million users, and more than 2/3 of them are out of college. Like mother of 4, Renda Strube.
I went on Facebook to spy on my kids.
Initially, her daughter was appalled.
When you got that friend request, Emma, what did you think?
I was like, no way.
I said, Emily, why aren't you friending me? And she responded, that's creepy, Dad. It's stalking.
When 14-year-old Emily Higgins ignored her dad's friend request, the Boston advertising executive decided to push a little harder, making T-shirts and bumper stickers. But so far, nothing is working.
He lives in my house, so he can talk to me at home.
While Emily might have to share her personal space with her dad, she isn't ready to give up her cyberspace. Sandra Hughes, CBS News, Azusa, California.
And to my daughters, sorry girls, that's the evening news. Good night.